coming up. Looming spending cuts will have a domino effect on the economy, but will it impact how you shop? We'll sit down with the CEO of the International Council of Shopping Centers to find out when Bottom Line continues in just a moment. As we have mentioned, sequestration cuts set to hit the nation tomorrow will cause a chain reaction in the economy. That's according to a George Mason University study, which says mass regional layoffs could lead to a $109 billion dip in labor income, which will lower disposable income and consumer spending. And that means lower revenue for retail businesses and even more job losses. Michael Kercheval is the CEO of the International Council of Shopping Centers, and he joins us here in studio. Mr. Kercheval, welcome back to Bottom Line. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Mark. It's nice to be back.
Consumer spending, buying power, if it is drained from the economy because of the sequester, where's that going to leave the nation's retailers?
Well, obviously, if you have a reduction of that consumer spending power, sales are going to go down, but they're going to go down with a lag, and it's going to be sticky. I think from where we see this situation right now, more of it has to do with consumer confidence. And this morass in Washington is really, sadly, nothing new. Yeah. But every time it comes up, it hits the confidence. And that's more harmful for the economy, and that's more harmful for consumer spending than really what the dollar amount of the cuts are in the sequestration.
Well, the expected shock of the cuts isn't expected to be felt until the second quarter, but then we could see impacts throughout the remainder of the year. How are retailers preparing for what could be less foot traffic in the stores because of this? You just talked about consumer confidence.
That's right. That's right. I don't think that we'd necessarily see less foot traffic. Every time we've had something like this happen, the first thing you see is a reduction in savings, and the saving rate has been fairly high. Yeah. And so the first reduction is in savings, not in spending, certainly not even in discretionary spending. Again, that all happens with a lag. We're optimistic that somebody in Washington can put a plan together and that this won't be a long-term problem.
We talk about the cuts, but what about the cuts for retail employees? They're folks who work in these stores. Are they going to be adversely impacted because of this?
Well, you know, I think as we talked last time, it's all about jobs. And our industry is one of the big job creators in the industry. And so our position is we should be doing everything, both as an industry and government, to create those jobs. And one of the areas that we talked about last time is trying to create a level playing field between these brick and mortar retailers and the pure play out-of-state online retailers. And I think that will go a long way into stabilizing the situation and maintaining a lot of those jobs.
Sir, why do you think Washington isn't listening to you and your colleagues?
Well, actually, I think they're starting to listen. And if there was any good news, just to give an example, we got a nice Valentine's Day present from Washington with the introduction of the Marketplace Fairness Bill. Yeah. And it was a bipartisan, bicameral bill that parts were all worked out between the Senate and the House.
And make it easier for states to collect taxes for online purchases and catalog purchases.
That's right. It gives the states the ability to collect those taxes, which are already due, but the states haven't had the ability to collect those.
Why not?
Because it was an interstate commerce issue.
Okay.
And a Supreme Court decision determined that only the federal government could give the states the ability to collect those taxes from out-of-state retailers. And with the internet, this, by the way, came up during the catalog era, had nothing to do with online. And with the growth of the internet, that's where we've seen this real in a missed tax opportunity. We estimate $23 billion of taxes that were due last year to the states were not paid and not collected by the states.
Michael Kercheval, he's the CEO of the International Council of Shopping Centers, joining us on set and gracious enough to stay with us through the breaking news on Herbalife and the interview with Senator Isaacson. Mr. Kercheval, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Good to see you, Mark. Thank you.
And let's repeat some of that Herbalife.